Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Shri Saraswatyai Namaha. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः समस्तजनकल्याणे निरन्तं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम् ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह न वीर्यं कर्वावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. So namaste and welcome all to the third study class. So last time we discussed about the introduction and the context about the book and what it provides, what is the relationship uh, between the student and the teacher, and at the same time, we had gone through the devoted dedication, what is the glory of the spiritual life, the unique graces in life, and then we were discussing about miseries of this worldly life of the unspiritual man, and we left partially discussing on the shloka 6. So today we will continue from shloka 6, then we'll touch upon the means of wisdom. Who is the fit student? Like, even if you are willing to proceed on the spiritual path as the spiritual aspirant, you need to first become the student who is qualified to follow these instructions. What are those four qualifications, and how is bhakti connected and related to this? Now, shloka number 6 says that let erudite scholars quote all the scriptures, let gods be invoked through sacrifices, let elaborate rituals be performed, let personal gods be propitiated, yet without the experience of one's identity with the self, that is the Atman, the higher self, there shall be no liberation for the individual, not even in the lifetime of hundreds of Brahmas put together. So, the ultimate state of bliss, which we know as samadhi, can only be achieved while you are in this physical body. And continuous state of this samadhi can be achieved only to a person who becomes a jivan mukta. That is one the person who has risen above the gunas. He becomes a gunatita. As Bhagavad Gita says, he becomes a sthita pragna, which is a state which is achieved based on the individual effort and jnana, knowledge alone. There is no other way. Now, jnana, when achieved, needs to become vijnana. Means jnana is knowledge, but vijnana is experience. So, wisdom becomes first-hand experience. Only then you are able to achieve. Then and only then this is possible, not by reading 100 books or attending 100 meetings, nor by performing any yogic exercises, nor by any rituals, nor by any boon, nor by any amount of wealth, nor by the grace of your guru. Grace of the guru is required, but it is your own effort. But only by your own individual effort, which you put in life after life, self-devised, self-propelled, which will generate enough karmic momentum that in one life you will get the right knowledge and the guidance of the right guru. And what we have seen in our previous study is that the real guru is your Atman itself, your higher self, and there is no guru outside. So only when our whole life, every moment, comes in harmony with the all, and all our thoughts, speech, and action are selfless and are propelled by Paravairagya, Bhakti, and performance of Raja Yoga based on our accumulation of Jnana Yoga, then we shall realize our true nature, by removal of superimpositions. That is, by removal of ignorance. And where are we removing this ignorance? This ignorance is being removed in our anthakarna by purification of our mind, which is also known as chitta shuddhi. How is this chitta shuddhi being achieved or mind purification achieved? By karma yoga, which we have seen several times. And only then it is possible to attain this state. Without realizing one's identity with Brahman, one cannot attain liberation even in the span of the life of 100 Brahmas. That means not even in the span of 100 Mahamanvantras. So, in this context, Bhagavad Gita, chapter 5, shloka 10 talks about those who dedicate their actions to Brahman alone, abandoning all attachment, remain untouched by sin, just as the lotus leaf is untouched by water. So, when the raindrops or dewdrops fall on the leaf of the lotus plant, they just trickle off. So, similarly, our life is untouched by our actions if we are unattached. 5:11 Bhagavad Gita talks about the yogis, while giving up attachment, perform actions with their body, senses, mind, and intellect only for the purpose of self purification. So, all our actions day to day are every moment of our life are only for the purpose of purification of the mind. That is performance of karma yoga. To that extent that even we are living a conscious life, not only our actions are offered to the higher self, our thoughts are also offered. We are also conscious about our breath, in breath and out breath, and we are offering our breath also. To that extent, we may offer our heartbeat also. We may offer our very existence. So that is the level we are talking about. 5:12 speaks about offering the results of all activities to the higher self. The karma yoga attains everlasting peace, whereas those who, being impelled by their desires, work with a selfish motive, become entangled because they are attached to the fruits of their action and to add to the action itself. And 5:13 says the embodied beings who are self-controlled, detached, reside happily in the city of nine gates, free from thoughts that they are the doers or that they cause anything. So this is a very important catch. We subtly get into this trap. We think that we are the doer. I understood the shloka. I went to office. I performed my duty towards my parents, my children. I earned my living. I had my dinner. You are not the doer. That we need to understand. You are just the witness consciousness. This needs to be practiced in every moment of our life. Then only you will reside happily in the city of nine gates. What is this city of nine gates? This body, this vehicle itself is the city of nine gates. How are there nine gates? These nine gates are the channels or doorways for interaction with the external world. You have the two eyes, two ears, two nostrils, the mouth, and the organs of excretion and reproduction. So total nine. So residing happily in the city of nine gates, free from thoughts and any attachment, and free from the delusion of you being the doer needs to be achieved. Seventh shloka of the Crest-Jewel talks about it is clear that liberation cannot be the effect of good works, as declared in the Shruti, that there is no hope for immortality by means of wealth. So, as we discussed, no amount of wealth can help you, and liberation cannot be the effect of good works. Good works is only providing you suitable, conducive, right, appropriate environment in the future lives. But unless and until you reach the state of Jnana Yoga and practice Raja Yoga based and propelled by Bhakti Yoga and purification done by Karma Yoga, nothing can happen. So that is very clear. Then in the next section of Vivekachūḍāmaṇi, we will touch upon means of attaining wisdom. So Shloka 8 and 13, 8 to 13 cover this. 8 talks about, therefore, the learned seeker who is striving to gain this freedom within and who has renounced all his desires for pleasures in the sense objects should duly approach a good and generous master and must live attuned to the true significances of the words of the master. Here in this shloka, we have a positive declaration of what exactly a seeker or a spiritual aspirant should do in order that he may be well established on the path of truth. Now we have seen that the master is the Atman, and the teaching which we have been provided in the Vivekachūḍāmaṇi, the Bhagavad Gita, and other books are the words of the master itself. So our life should be attuned with these teachings. That is, we must live our life attuned to the true meaning of the words of the master as provided to us. And these constitute but the very initial steps in the spiritual life. So, a student entering the hall of wisdom can gain admission to that hall of wisdom only when he has reached a certain level and with self effort raised himself. Hence, in this shloka, there is a word vidwan used in the shloka, which means that um, it indicates a true seeker who has reached a certain level so as to get entry into the hall of wisdom, as the voice of silence states. So, when therefore the spiritual aspirants having a cursory knowledge of life and its meaning realizes the futility of running after the sense object, he comes to a certain amount of renunciation of desires and has developed or generated full faith in the master, that is your Atman, self-reliance, which means complete self-reliance is there on your higher self. And even with all the prescribed qualifications, if a seeker were to reach the feet of the perfect master, then the transferred knowledge cannot still take root in the student unless he is himself ready to strive along the path and has become a pure, clean vessel for the reception of the knowledge and instructions. So we have to then become a pure, clean vessel. Hence, the importance is given to leading a clean life. The major part, then, if we see, is in our hands. We have to raise ourselves to be karmically due for guidance and blessing from the Master. The Master will not come down to our level. We have to raise ourselves. Shloka 9 says, having attained the state of Yoga Rudha through continuous and well established discrimination, one should lift oneself from the ocean of change and finitude wherein one has come to be drowned. So, in the shlokas 1 to 4, uh, when with the Guru, the seeker is advised to focus on the learning, abide in the teaching, get attuned to the words, instructions, the way of living as provided. And then we see in shloka 5 to 6, we can see reaching the Guru is an immense step, a huge milestone, that is reaching a state of surrender, self-reliance to the higher self is a huge step. Here, it is complete self-surrender which is happening. Unless that self-surrender doesn't happen, you will be stuck there. So, in oneself, we need to have a complete surrender to the higher self, that is the Guru in us. Then we see in Shloka 8 and 9, it takes one through a lightning glimpse of the initial stages of the spiritual path in preparation for what is to come in the rest of the journey. Then the spiritual path begins here. However, it does not relieve oneself from the responsibilities of walking on the path himself. So the Guru says one should lift himself by himself. And in this context, Bhagavad Gita discusses about Yoga Rudha, one established in yoga, mainly in chapter 6, Dhyana Yoga. So the key verses which are provided as a guidance how you should lift yourself by yourself are from 6.3 to 6.6, especially 6.4. So we'll go directly to 6.4. When a person does not get attached to the objects of sense organs and to actions, since he has given up thought about everything, then he is said to be established in yoga. So Yoga Rudha state is described in more detail as we saw in Bhagavad Gita. But when one has total dispassion, when nothing is enticing to the spiritual aspirant, when his mind is totally available for Shraddha and concentration, that is one pointed contemplation, then he is said to be in a state of Yoga Rudha. Now, practically think that this is also associated with a very high state of Vairagya, Paravairagya, because you really have realized the futility of this life, futility of aggrandizement of objects of senses, of everything. And you have understood that this whole life is suffering and there is a way out. Now, there is something known as the sadhana chatushtaya, which is acquiring of that is a prerequisite to come to the state of yoga rudha. From the yoga rudha state, one can begin serious sadhana or contemplation and reach deeper and deeper states of meditation. So Bhagavad Gita says in 6.5, elevate yourself through the power of your mind and not degrade yourself. For the mind can be the friend and also the enemy of the self. And we are quite aware of that. Our monkey mind is always running here and there, and desires arise. With desire, attachment arise, and then you want to achieve that desired object, and then suffering arises, and so on and so forth. So, if you truly realize the difference between self and not self, what is permanent and what is temporary, that is nitya anitya, self and not self, atma and atman. And whenever you are interacting in this physical world with whoever and whatever you are performing, so you are doing your activity based on karma yoga, unattached. And when you are interacting with objects and people and situations, at the back of the mind, you know everything is temporary. There is nothing which is permanent. At the same time, there is only one reality, which is the Atman. And you are the Atman, the witnessed consciousness, and rest all is Anatman, which is the object. So it goes back to the concept of Drigdrishya Viveka also, wherein you have the cognizer, the cognized object, and the capability or the faculty of cognition. But you are actually the witness. So this attitude while performing karma yoga is very important. The shloka 10 also talks about, may the wise and the learned man give up all actions which are motivated by desires and start the practice of rediscovering the self and thereby attain freedom from the bondage of birth and death. So, in effect, what's happening is that uh, the spiritual aspirant has given up thought about everything. He becomes habitually a rejecter of thoughts. That is, particular modification of the mind in the form of this has to be done, the fruit has to be enjoyed, or I need to achieve this, and so on and so forth. All what you are doing is that you are performing your duties in life. You are not motivated by desires. You are motivated by duty. So the propelling force in your life of doing all the action is duty. That's all, period. It is not desire. And if you even if you see desire, even if you think of the highest desire, so-called, to be better able to help and teach others, that also is actually your highest duty. So there is no room for desire at all. So when the spiritual aspirant thus becomes established in yoga, then the lower self becomes uplifted from the multitudes of the mundane evils by the higher self. So therefore, um, we see that uh, the advice which is provided is to renounce all activities motivated by the self-aggrandizing hopes or disintegrating desires, to abandon and renounce all actions which are based on desires, and focus only on those actions which are related with duty. So it is said that this renunciation of activities of the world is in one way not to be overemphasized and misunderstood, because the whole idea is that we are by default running towards our desires and ambitions, which are never ending. And then we will be only wasting our time in this life, wasting our money, wasting our mental energies. Since all these resources are limited and temporary, even if you see your lifetime itself is limited. Hence, we need to focus on intelligent, conscious living and practice the various means of self-discovery. That is how we should raise the self by the self and not waste time in fulfilling our desires. And this is very subtle. So that is why there is so much emphasis given on this. Next, Shloka 11 talks about selfless work and charitable acts help to purify the mind. But they do not by themselves contribute to the perception of reality. The discovery of reality is brought about only by discriminative analysis and never by any number of actions. So, when we are saying reality, we are talking about the absolute truth, Paramartha Satya. Now, further, we need to also understand that Shankara points out that karma, when undertaken with pure nishkama bhava, that is unattached, that is karma yoga, it purifies the inner instrument, that is the antakarna. So here, if we see, uh, shuddhi is used in connection with the mind and the purification of the mind, because purer the instrument, antakarna, that is purer the mind, greater there will be the capacity to concentrate, and greater there will be the capacity to understand the real meaning, because the mind instrument becomes sattvic. Now, selfless work, charitable acts, karma yoga makes your mind sattvic. That sattvic mind is used for, or necessary, mandatory for the spiritual aspirant. Now, when an action is undertaken with a personal motive, the individual goes through tremendous stress to achieve that end result. But when you do a work of charity or kindness, you don't have that tremendous stress, because there is no ulterior selfish motive. The mind easily settles, calms down, and peace arises. So that is why charitable works are recommended. At the same time, you kill your selfishness, you kill your ego, you realize the or you see the bigger picture. You do not associate yourself with I, me, and mine. So the spiritual aspirant, which increases, so basically what happens in the spiritual aspirant, the sattvic tendency increases with time, and slowly over time his mind becomes purified, and he becomes completely unattached and free by selfless works and charity. Now, these are not to be forcefully done. These are to be performed with realization. Only then the purification will happen. Now, here, the selfless action is only helping the spiritual aspirant in detaching himself with this whole identity of me, mine, I am this body, my life, and so on and so forth. After a time, what happens is that there is a complete change which happens in the inner sheaths, the astral and the mental, especially, wherein they become so subtle and purified, and along with Paravairagya, that they are able to grasp the inner meaning of the teachings of the Guru, the words of the Guru. Otherwise, it is not possible. Now, we mentioned about the uh, six inner wealth or the Shamadhi Shataka Sampatti, which is these six qualities are mandatory, which need to be there. So in Advaita Vedanta, Shama, Dama, Titiksha, Uparati, Shraddha, and Samadhana are part of Shamadhi Shataka Sampatti. That is the six inner wealths, essential qualifications which are required for self-inquiry. Now, these are very mandatory and essential for the spiritual aspirant to lead a disciplined life. Now, many students are aware of this, but they do not practice or make a point to achieve this or apply these in their life in a practical manner. Now, this is very important since it is the foundation of the spiritual aspirant, and without these, the progress on the path is not possible. So, Shama relates to the mastery of the mind. That is, with all these teachings at the back of the mind, we reached a state of calmness, control over thoughts, and there is no distraction by ambitions and desires. How this will happen? This will happen by constantly studying, thinking, contemplating on the teaching that why everything is temporary, why we are not this body, why it is a waste of time running towards desires because they are short-lived and so on and so forth. So then only calmness of the mind will come. Then mastery of thoughts and mastery of mind will come. Then Dhamma, restraint of senses. Senses are always running towards the objects of senses in the outside world. So this restraint of senses is very important because mind being the Raja of senses, the five senses which we have, they pull the mind outwards. We have to take the mind and withdraw it inwards. So once the senses are restrained and they are withdrawn inwards, then the mind is not running outwards. So Dhamma is important. Titiksha, indifference to pleasure and pain, endurance. This is again very important. Whatever the situation of life may be, do not be attached to likes, dislikes, pain, pleasure, success, failure, up, down, sorrow, happiness, whatever. You observe it. We will feel pain in our body. We will feel pleasure also in our body. You are just observing it. You are not getting drifted or attached or sort of disturbed by it. Then oparati, withdrawal, that is turning from external distraction. So always focusing your mind on what is your duty. As we discussed, there is no desire at all. There is only performance of duty. Every moment you are performing your duty. And as soon as your mind gets distracted towards your desire or something else, you bring back your mind on performance of your duty. Shraddha, faith. So we know that there is a Guru Parampara. The Gurus and their chelas have worked on this path. And this is a tried and tested manner. As mentioned in the ancient source, the great seers have again and again done individual studies, checked, verified, cross-verified the records. So we know that this is tried and tested path. So you should not doubt and have full faith, not only on the path, the instructions, the scriptures, but also on the words of the Guru. So having doubt will create a negative impact on your mind and will derail you. So Shraddha is important. Then Samadhana, concentration. One pointed focus on the higher self. Like in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, always 24 by 7, 365 days throughout your life, while performing your actions, whatever you're doing, always keep your mind on me. If your mind is on me, then I will take care of the rest. So that needs to be practiced. What are the practical implications of this? Once we have achieved the um, idea of Shama and Dama, then we'll have the mindful living achieved. Titiksha builds resilience essential for spiritual maturity. Uparati actually encourages detachment from unnecessary worldly involvement. And Shraddha anchors the seeker in trust, preventing doubt from derailing the inquiry or derailing the person or spiritual aspirant from the path of the spiritual life. Samadhana enables deep concentration on the self, the higher self, without distraction. Now, these go back to the uh, four qualifications which we have seen. So, these four qualifications are very important. And what we saw now, the six inner wealth, these are part of these four qualifications. The first is Viveka. Viveka, in the sense that um, you have to have very clear understanding always while living your life that everything is temporary except the substratum, the basis of all, which is Paramatma, the Atman, and you are that. So, this is kind of a touchstone, it's kind of a litmus paper test which needs to be done every time. That will help you to understand that there is only one reality. Vairagya, we all know that we need to reach the stage of Paravairagya. You have to become a thought renouncer also, and at the same time, you need to be completely detached. We just saw the six inner wealths, and Mumukshutva, which we have already discussed, is a driving force. That is, always you should have this burning desire for liberation. If you do not have this burning desire for liberation, then you will fall back into a deluded state. So, this is kind of a propelling force. Again, we need to be very careful about our motivation. Why do you need this burning desire? Is it for your own selfish purpose of gaining liberation, or to be better able to help and teach others? So, what is the purpose? That check needs to be always there. Shloka 12 talks about the fear and sorrow created by the delusionary serpent on the rope can be ended only after fully ascertaining the truth of the rope, which is available for recognition only through steady and balanced thinking. So, here the shloka explains that sort of why the discovery of the self is not possible through karmas, and right thinking is required. That is, dhyana is required. This is being explained here by the famous analogy of the serpent, the rope. Now, in Advaita Vedānta, this example is often quoted to make the student understand how the names and forms, that is, Nama Rupa, created through the ignorance of reality, can end with the rediscovery of truth underlying them. So, all our life, everything, whatever we are doing, is being experienced in our mind. And whenever we see the external world, we communicate, relate to it in terms of names and forms. So every person we know, family, friend, acquaintance, etc., has a name, has a face, has a form. Every object, when we talk about the table, my car, my office, and so on and so forth, has a name and a form. But in this plethora of names and forms, we forget the true nature of those things. That these names and forms are just for communication. They are temporary, but behind the scene, that object or that expression of the one exists only because of that one being the substratum. So, in this example, it is never possible that one who has seen the rope as a rope will ever have the fear and sorrow of a snake bite. So, here the person is seeing a rope and he thinks it's a snake and gets fear. So, it's like sometimes in the gathering darkness of the dusk, a traveler is going and mistakes an innocent rope to be a snake. Hence, the serpent delusion is created in the mind of the traveler because of his ignorance of the truth about the rope reality. And having thus been bitten by the illusionary or delusionary serpent, the individual, so long as he is under the delusion, suffers the agony of snake bite and the fear which arises. And it is said that if left alone, may also exhibit the symptoms of blood poisoning because he thinks he's been bitten or there is danger. And all this is only happening in his mind. Similarly, it is with our deluded state of life. We have so many fears in our life, so many uncertainties, so many doubts, and negative states of mind. Now, in this example, when the traveler is advised to make an inquiry into his delusion, so if you have, or if the traveler has faithful friends, near and dear ones, which will approach and guide him, and they will say, "Oh, it's just a rope, it's just a length of the rope," then he will accept this statement as a possibility only because he has faith in his near and dear ones, in his friends. But however, much he may try, he will not enjoy complete peace of mind until he himself sees the rope as a rope first hand. Similarly, we need to first hand realize that we are not this body, we are not this mind, we are none of these sheets. All this moment, we are already that pure Atman, but we think otherwise. Now, in this example, the moment the traveler is led to a place of the incident and in clear light, he discovers the rope for himself. Then his fear, the anxiety, the delusionary concept of the snake, that the snake may bite him or he is bitten by the snake, etc., disappears. But at the same time, no amount of beating the rope in the darkness can kill the snake or bring final peace or happiness. So even if the rope is burnt, without the traveler personally examining or realizing the nature of the rope, he will not find his balance again and take his mind away from the thoughts of fear, pain caused by the experience of the snake. He may still believe that it's the snake which was burnt. This represents our previous life skandhas. So once our previous life skandhas are there, they again and again create agony in our mind, delusion in our mind, and trouble in our mind. Similarly, through karmas, that is, actions performed even for thousands and thousands of lifetimes and years, one cannot come to that joy of self discovery. So the only method of liberation is jnana yoga. That is, when you yourself touch the rope, examine the rope, realize that it is not a snake, it is a rope, then by realization only you are free. So how is realization happening here? Realization is happening through jnana yoga and raja yoga. So we need to, without doubt, rely on the sayings of the wise ones, since they have walked on this path already several times and have provided us with precise instructions. Shloka 13 says, neither sacred baths, nor any amount of charity, nor even hundreds of pranayamas can give us the knowledge about our own self, but a firm experience of the nature of the self can be gained when we send our thoughts along the rails of arguments laid down in the salutary advices of the wise ones. So, by merely following the rituals, giving charities, practicing breathing exercises or new age yogic exercises, taking bath in holy waters, going to pilgrimages, or performing various kinds of rituals will not lead to liberation. So, if we see in today's world, majority of the people are already in deluded state, and due to the defect of ignorance, that is not knowing the reality, they are not able to comprehend the truth or the way out from the suffering. So, hence, due to this delusion and attachment with their body, belongings, family, friends, etc., they are stuck in the cycle of birth and death. They have fear of losing their near and dear ones. They have fear about losing their possessions, and they are stuck in that state. Hence, for the spiritual aspirant, Adi Shankaracharya prescribes correct approach of thinking and continuous self-analysis. So now, due to the defect of ignorance and a deluded state, an independent inquiry and deeper contemplation is actually rarely performed by people. Thus, they do not engage in self reflection or reflection on what is beneficial, what is harmful, what is real, what is false, what is permanent, what is temporary, what is Atma, what is Anatma, what is Nitya, what is Anitya. They keep on drifting in a deluded state from one life to the other life. Even if they try to search for truth, in one life, it is not possible because of the impurities which are accumulated in their instrument, the antakarna, the other sheets, the astral and pranic body, and so on and so forth, since many lives. Hence, Shankara says the nature of what is truly beneficial must be rightly understood. Therefore, having faith and following the scriptures and the teacher's instructions as provided, one should perform continuous self inquiry. Who am I? What is the reality? Am I this body? Why I am not this body? So and so forth. Only by directly realizing the true nature of the self, liberating oneself from false identification with non self, that is the body, and what constitutes the other sheets. Then only by this contemplation, which is also known as vichara, continuous meditation as taught by the sages, alone this can take us to the right path and ultimately to our redemption. If we are not doing contemplation and this kind of meditation in our life on these lines, then we are wasting our life. Our life is completely a waste, is what is hinted here. Then we slightly touch upon shlokas 14 and 17, which focus on the fit student. Who is the fit student? Shloka 14 says, ultimate success in spiritual endeavors depends entirely upon the degree of fundamental qualifications in the seeker. Auxiliary conveniences such as time and place all have a place indeed, but they are essentially secondary. Now, we have discussed regarding the term adhikari, which means the qualified spiritual aspirant. The qualification is very important for success. If the spiritual aspirant has 100% of this qualification, then success is sure if they follow the instructions to the T. So we saw that these are the qualifications. Now, here is a suggestion to the seeker who generally gets disappointed at having to encounter obstacles at the very outset of their spiritual journey. So, let's say when there is a set of students, they are working under the instruction of the same master. It is always observed that some of them progress faster than the others. Those who lag behind soon reach a state of despair and they complain about the hollowness of the teachings and so on and so forth. So, if success on the spiritual path has been slow or unsatisfactory, the seeker needs to know that he or she himself is the reason. It is invariably happening because of the knot in the heart. And we have already seen in a previous study that this knot in the heart is there. And this knot in the heart comes from ignorance, avidya, desire, kama, and karma action. So the first area of attack is your desire, which we saw that needs to be with knowledge destroyed. And then with knowledge, ignorance is destroyed. And with karma yoga, your karma and actions lead to purification. Only then this knot will open. So the whole idea is to become the right suitable vessel, provide right suitable conditions. That's it. Then the spiritual aspirant will be able to get success. The right time, the right place, other auxiliaries and other factors and variables are just secondary. The main point is that the student should be qualified, should have Shraddha, complete trust, and at the same time should put continuous self-devised and self-propelled efforts. Therefore, a true seeker of self should learn to inquire, meditate after duly approaching the Guru, who is himself established in the experience of self and who is an ocean of kindness. So, here we see that the Guru itself, which we are approaching, should have certain qualifications. Just as there are essential qualifications for a true student, there are those also which are essential to make a man of wisdom a true and efficient Guru. It is not that every man of realization who can efficiently take up the work of directing others on the path of spiritual goal. We need to know that the Sanskrit word guru is made of two words. Gu means darkness and ru means remover. So guru means one who removes the darkness from darkness of what? Darkness of ignorance from our hearts. That is the one who helps us untie this knot, hridaya granthi, knot in our heart. Um, so he next shloka talks about he who has keen memory with enough knowledge of the world outside and understanding of the world within, who can argue about the scriptures, refute and debate, is fit for receiving Atma Vidya. So this is quite obvious that we need a guru. Now, in today's world, such a guru is difficult to obtain. That's why the reference goes back to the words of the master in the book itself, in Vivekachūḍāmaṇi, in Bhagavad Gita, and other books. And 17 talks about he alone is considered qualified to inquire after the supreme reality, who has discrimination, detachment, qualities of calmness, so on and so forth, and a burning desire. This we have already seen. Four qualifications for the attainment is also what we have touched. And the important aspect given in Shloka 19 is about discrimination between real and unreal, a burning desire, which we have already seen, firm conviction of intellect that Brahman alone is real and phenomenal world is unreal. So, Shloka 20 again and again emphasizes on this fact that while living your life, always keep at the back of your mind that the substratum is real. What arises, the name and form is temporary. Think of an ocean. The ocean is there always. The waves come and go. So when you meet a person, that person is just like a wave. When you interact with an object or a person or anything in the outside world, it's just like a wave. The wave is coming and has a lifespan, and the wave will die and disappear. But the wave itself is the ocean, and the wave itself merges into the ocean, and the ocean expresses the wave, and the reality is the ocean. Not only the ocean, the basis, the substratum of the ocean. 21 talks about that desire to give up all transitory enjoyments gained through seeing, hearing, and so on, and also experiences gained through equipments ranging from mortal body to the form of Brahma is called detachment. So at thought level, you have detachment. At physical level, you have detachment. At every level, you have detachment. Because your mind is rooted in the one reality, the substratum always. So, friends, we will stop here and we'll conclude with the chanting. Om Sarvesham स्वस्तिर्भवतु सर्वेषां शान्तिर्भवतु सर्वेषां पूर्णं भवतु सर्वेषां मङ्गलं भवतु सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् अस्तु मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति 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 हरि ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः हरि ओम. We can have some questions and discussions.